I've featured hundreds of locations on this channel highlighting the architecture from the past. For some reason, I've avoided New York. I guess the main reason is it's just so vast. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Brooklyn in particular, and I found quite a large file. This bird's eye view map from 1879 is showing us the Brooklyn Bridge, massive structure, quite a few spires. If you're familiar with my work, though, you'll know that I think these drawn depictions of these locations are actually deceptions to help align with the narrative that we've been given for history. And I don't know if we need to, but for the sake of consistency, let's take a look at the geography. Where is Brooklyn located? You can see it here. And on this channel I have featured places like the Bronx, and not far away you have Newark, New Jersey. Both amazing old world cities with structures that defy the historical explanations that we've been given about the past. And the population demographics for Brooklyn, you can see here in the modern day, we're looking at about 2,600,000 people. We turn the clocks back to the turn of the 20th century. We're just over 1 million, so quite large. One of the early booming metropolises in the New World, after the Old World was overhauled and we were reset. But if you look back a little further, you can see that it's still kind of coming from nothing throughout that century, the 1800s. You get a major hinge point after the American Civil War, and there'll be a bit of that narrative as we look through the architecture. And the purpose of my videos is to catalog the architecture of a given location. I want you to take note of the dates these buildings were said to have been constructed, and also take note of demolition dates. Often what we get is very short lifespans for these immense castle-like structures, which lends to the credence that what we're looking at are structures that have been around a lot longer, and we're looking at a false start narrative. This is the 13th Regiment Armory. You can see we have a 2-year build time, built in 1894. This one still stands. You can see it here in a much nicer resolution photograph. You also have what many have hypothesized to be potentially some sort of hangar for dirigible air travel in the old world. And I also wonder, when we see these coneless turrets, that the roofs have actually been removed on a lot of these, and what we consider to be just a typical castle look is actually just the lower portion of a tower that once came to a peak and potentially was used for the harnessing of the etheric energy that was fictionalized with Einstein and his theory of relativity. There's so much more to this. If you're new to a lot of this old world research, you've stumbled onto a massive rabbit hole, and I hope it doesn't offend your senses, which it can do, because much of what is being discussed is completely opposite of what we've been taught about history. We have another one here, the 14th Regiment Armory, built in and around the same time, 1894-95. And also, as we move forward, take note of the streets. The quality of the brickwork in the streets looking very, very worn and old, looking like hundreds of years of time has worn these streets down, which I find interesting. I looked that up. When did they start doing this in the cities, paving these streets with cobbles and bricks? And they say about 1860 was the beginning of that practice. I managed to find quite a number of high-quality black and whites of Brooklyn. Here we're looking at the 23rd Regiment Armory, and you have the mode of transportation at the time, the rickety horse and buggy, contrasting with the castles that were flying up in the last decade of the 19th century. You can see here again the timeline overlapping both of the timelines for the previous two armories we looked at. This one is still standing and is now a homeless shelter. These things right on the edge of dilapidation and demolition in a lot of cases. So we have three castles now in Brooklyn being built all in that same decade. This is supposedly a depiction of a previous version of the 23rd Regiment. We get this a lot as well. These types of stories help to cement the false start narrative that comes with the structures we're looking at here, in my opinion. If a building like this did exist, I'm not saying it couldn't have, I'm saying it would have existed in conjunction with this one. The 47th Regiment Armory, this one built a little bit earlier. You can see 1883-84, 2-year build time to build these castles. And not long after the American Civil War, they dusted themselves off and claimed victory and got to work. This is, you can see here, a massive structure as we look down the 47th Regiment Armory. But we'll keep moving forward. This, we're told, is a photograph of New York from Brooklyn from 1896, which is curious because I did look up the Singer building. You can see here it was said to have been built a little bit later than 1896. So historical inaccuracies and inconsistencies abound as we take the magnifying glass to much of what comes down through time into our laps. The Brooklyn Academy of Music, and again a previous iteration. And I often wonder, are we looking at a structure that was modified and that potentially looked something more like this, although they're missing some of the symmetry that we often see with these old world structures, so I wonder about that. And the reason I say that, and I don't really buy the 1907 start time, where maybe that was more of a restart, is the very high level of finish that we have going on in the interior. Very interesting to see the 3 openings here. So much richer the performing arts, the experience. At the turn of the centuries, there were so many places, opera houses. This one, the Academy of Music. And we have a previous date probably signifying that it once looked like this. And they'll tell us they tore it down. Certainly worthy of inclusion, and this is giving us a nice look at the paved streets as well. Very inconsistent shapes here as well. I have hypothesized that many of these streets were actual brick, and in some sort of cataclysmic electrical charge event that fried the circuit board of this place that we inhabit, that the nature of these cobbles was changed to look more like stone. And if you look closely at some of them, they do have a bit of a melted look or a misshapen look. And if you don't see the build dates, it's because I couldn't find them. This is the Adelphi Institute. There it is. And again, you get the, well, very indicative of Brooklyn. You have the main floor a little bit higher up, just like the classic brownstones. And you have the basement floor sort of shrouded in from the surrounding area. Very odd way to build if you're doing that. We don't build like that in the modern day whatsoever. Looking a bit more like a practice that has fallen by the wayside. The Alhambra apartments, which still stand, and they look nice in the black and white, very grainy black and white. It does still stand, and this is just a sneak peek at what they look like in the modern day, just to give you a sense of how well they retain the quality down through time, unless of course they're allowed to dilapidate and actually encouraged, which does happen as well. But take a look at the level of detail on the Alhambra apartments. You can see that in the modern day the street side has been sort of shrouded over, almost hiding your eye from what's above it. You're walking trying into this place. This may not even catch your eye, but it certainly should. And just a street scene of some of the structures that I have no name for. If anyone knows the names of these structures and knows that if they still stand, whether or not they still stand, certainly appreciate those comments down below. And this again is giving us a nice look at the heavily worn streets that really, at the time of photography, can't be more than 40 years old according to the narrative that we're given. Looking much older though. The Bedford Reformed Church, said to be built in 1853. About 50,000 people living in Brooklyn in 1853. Nice looking structure. I found this as well, the Bliss Castle. Couldn't find any photos of it. You got about a 50-year window that this even existed. Yet another castle in Brooklyn. And I'm sure it's a much larger structure than we're seeing here in this postcard. But early demolition there. Huge reset through the first decades of the 20th century. Of course, we know about the big wars and all the rest of it. The Borough Hall, said to have been built at a very early time period, 1850. Just over 100,000 people living there at the time, 1846 to 1851. Very typical looking old world style building, and not in any fashion that we build in the modern day. Boys High School, during that busy decade before the turn of the 20th century. We're told that this one was going up, 1891. For high school, I did do a recent video on high schools just to show how many of these types of buildings. This one did show up in that video. There was just so many. And here's a look at it in the modern day, still standing, again showing you the level of detail that goes unmatched in our modern day. 1891, they decided to put that together. The Brighton Beach Hotel, quite a few of these connected with the whole Coney Island situation there. 1878, we're told this one was built. 1888, it was moved apparently. Check this out. Due to severe beach erosion and threats from high tides and storms, the entire 5,000-ton structure was famously moved about 500 to 600 feet inland, using 6 steam locomotives, 112 railroad flat cars, and hydraulic jacks. Despite all that effort, 30-some years later, they tore it down. It's a lot of trouble to go to. Here we're looking at a warehouse, and again giving you a sense of very high quality of brickwork. You can see the flares on what I was about to say chimneys, but these don't look like chimneys to me. These are very strangely shaped. It makes me wonder about their function. But a massive structure. These buildings down here are more what I would expect from that time period. And you can see there hasn't been a lot of thought put into the chimneys. The siding, inconsistencies abound. Looking at 2 different civilizations. Interesting too, when we look down by the street, and you can see the openings, you even have a little grate here, have been covered up. So you can see the entranceway is raised, and no question that there's a lower section below here. For a warehouse, of course. The entrance to the Brooklyn Bridge, which we saw in the bird's eye view map I showed in the beginning. And I wanted to highlight this because of this gorgeous looking structure here, which I'm not sure, I couldn't find that one either. Again, if anyone knows anything more. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. Everything is decked right out. Beautiful. Beautiful. This stuff was easy for them back then, if we're to believe the narrative. Or we're looking at an inherited civilization. And the story we're given about the past just doesn't fit when we're looking at the visuals. The old hospital, 1852. Really good with the stone and brick, even in 1852. Another look at the hospital. Here's an unnamed church. Anybody knows? Put that in the comments below. There's a nice look at the bridge itself. A very prominent structures, these stone, I'm not even sure what you would call them, supports for the bridge itself. Also a beautiful looking structure here in the foreground. Yet another unnamed church. There's a lot going on in this photograph actually. Very pristine, blank looking streets, almost looking unlived in, looking like it's just been swept and dusted off. Waiting for someone to press play, if you will. Take a look at that structure. How old is that really? And even this house with a nice looking cone. Beautiful. Now there's a nice look at the Triumphal Arch and the water tower, which we'll be looking at as we move forward as well. The water tower no longer standing. The arch said to have been built, well, we'll get to that. I'll keep you in suspense for a little while. I do find the landscaping interesting as we look back here now. To me, this feels like there's been some digging and maybe some piling of dirt. Not looking natural in any way surrounding this open area. Very wide open area with the poor little horse and buggies, and of course the streetcar in full effect here in Brooklyn. Another typical style of building, of which I have no name for, showing all the same signs as the previous ones. We'll keep moving forward though, quite a bit to see in this presentation. Henry Ward Beecher, founder, inheritor, as far as I'm concerned. Interesting messaging going on down here as part of the statue. And just a look at the people of the time. These are the people that are involved with the building, not particularly this group of people, but we have to believe that these people are witnessing this construction all around them at the time. A city under construction. Castles going up everywhere, multi-story structures going up everywhere. It would have been absolute construction madness. But that's not the feel we get perceiving these individuals here. Almost like a lost vibe that I get from staring at these faces. What do you think? I found this one interesting as well. This is a piece of machinery that hydraulically shoots mail. It looks pretty sophisticated. Inherited tech. Trying to restart a population and a people. And more of the same. You can see the ornamentation, the eagle, looking like we got either a dragon or a griffin. Very heavily ornamented, very high quality building materials, all indicative of old world construction to my eye. And one of the most interesting parts of the old world rabbit hole, if you will, has to do with the orphans. Why on earth there were so many parentless children at the time? And there was a lot of speculation surrounding that. Here we're looking at one of the orphan asylums in Brooklyn, said to have been built in 1892, so the same time that those armories are going up. And this one only lasts just over 50 years before they decide to tear that down. My guess is it was hundreds of years old. Absolutely spectacular. It had to go. Not a square inch of detail spared on this beautiful looking structure for the purpose of raising parentless children, we're told. Inheriting buildings and wiping the minds clean and reprogramming the people. And there's a nice look at the Brooklyn Bridge, one of the surrounding structures, looking like we have a horse-drawn streetcar. Now with all of this infrastructure, why are we still pulling streetcars with horses? If you know anything about that narrative, you'll know that that's how this started, apparently. The streetcars were meant to be pulled by horses until this magical invention called electricity came along, and they electrified these circuits before they destroyed them all. Brunswick Democratic Club, same time frame, 1892, they're building this. The Bushwick Theater, one of many theaters. I had to stop as I was looking at theaters in Brooklyn. I included a few in here, but there are many, many, many more. And no doubt many more with spectacular interiors, where sometimes you can't get a good sense of that on the exterior. Again, what are we looking at here? Is this some sort of griffin? One of the symbols of Tartaria, and I think heavily linked with the phenomenon, the old world phenomenon. The girls' high school, built in 1885-86. Now, high school's really not getting organized until at least a decade later, and then into the 20th century, but yet another high school, we're told. that goes up at this early time period. Sure, nothing was done plainly. It just seems like everything we see was extravagant, over the top, absolutely off the charts difficult to design, build. And one of the most interesting parts of the old world, well, of our historical narrative, and why I think it's so fictional, is the lack of emphasis on engineering itself. Anyone who knows anything about construction knows that engineering relies heavily, or these structures rely heavily on proper engineering to retain their integrity down through time. All we ever hear about is the architects. Nice look at the Brooklyn Bridge again. This is massive, absolutely massive. No, we saw that one earlier. Let's keep moving forward. I like to showcase the roads as well. Here, this is a good view of. We have motor cars entering the picture as Rockefeller gets his act together and decides to take over the transportation systems of our time. But as you can see here, they had the foresight to build the roads, which would later become 4-lane roads. Very, very wide. Again, why are you building this way at such an early time period? All you have is the clip-clop of horses and the odd streetcar. And there's so much coming out of Brooklyn. This is really one of the most juiciest files that I have put together in quite some time as far as visuals go. The Greenwood Cemetery. This is the Chauncey Monument. Looking like it's absolutely teched out, just as you would a cathedral. We're looking at the City Hall here. And you can see the timeline on the construction of that, 1830s, when there's 25 to 30,000 people living there. Getting up towards 50, I suppose, at the end of its construction duration. But not by no means a large city, and that's apparently what they were capable of at the time. You can also see the elevated rail system here, much like we've seen in places like Chicago. Yet another home for children. So that makes 2 orphanages. We'll keep moving forward, though. We're looking at a bit of Coney Island. A little bit of digging into Coney Island is you'll find the incubator babies, a large part of the narrative there, having to do with the people's ability to observe these babies in these incubators and potentially purchase them. Again, it's a deep rabbit hole. I won't get into it too heavily, as this video is put together to feature the architecture. But you're getting a lot of World's Fair vibes as we go through Coney Island, and this is the Dreamland Tower. There it is, lit up. Feeling like it was a World's Fair that stayed standing for a time. And you're getting a lot of the same architecture we see on many of the structures here. With the castles, all of these being featured at Coney Island. A lot of tech, antiquitech. And if you get into Michelle Gibson's research, she talks a lot about the amusement parks being part of the energetic grid system. There's a lot of interesting information on her website regarding that as well. Here we have the Riccadonna Hotel. Another one of those early hotels. I think we will see that again moving forward. I have more details on that. The Steeplechase Tower at Coney Island. People taking in the day's activities. But take a look at the architecture. Moving on to the county jail, said to have been built in the 1830s when there's 20,000 people living there. Demolished in 1963, but a very nice looking stone structure. Moving on to the courthouse. I do have a series of videos featuring courthouses by county going state by state, showing you what once was and what currently exists. So many have been demolished. And this one included, as you can see here, 100-year lifespan, 1860. They built this, and there's less than 300,000 people living in Brooklyn, with its prominent dome on top. Very congested looking area here. Had to get rid of it. The Crescent Athletic Club, heavily ornamental, as you can see here. Multi-storied structure, 1906. The Culver Terminal Railway Station, opened 1875 and demolished 1923. Very short window of time as well. Nice looking structure though. Very charming, these old world structures. Even if you choose not to venture into the rabbit hole, I hope you can appreciate the visuals and the buildings for the features that they present to us. This is a nice one as well. Very crisp photograph showing you several towers. In the foreground there's the courthouse. I believe this is a municipal building of some sort next to the courthouse. Dr. Nelson's Memorial Church, everything made out of stone, as you can see, right down to the very heavily worn streets. Early photograph. Even the roof of the cone structure here looks like an octagonal stone roof. Degree of difficulty off the charts. Does not get done in the modern day. We'll continue to move forward. There were some gems in here for sure. Like I said, 1890 to 92, we have the Eagle building. This one gets demolished in the mid-1950s. So yet another structure going up at that same time. There it is, the Eagle building with its wonderful looking dome. And look how big these columns are down here as well. Massive doorways, columns. Had to go. 1850. And there's a closer look at the Eagle on the corner. This giving you a real sense of the immensity of the structure itself. Even here, you get a little closer, you can see the stairs going up to this level. The Eagle Savings and Loan Building here, 1886-87, we're told. So Erasmus Hall, used as a high school apparently. There it is. Built like a church, but no, it's a high school. Again, another cemetery, the Fairmount Cemetery, the entrance all stoned up. You can just imagine being a stonemason in the 1800s. You would have been like the coal miners in the 40s, in the 30s and 40s in the UK, who walked around like kings of the town. Now here's what the fire engines look like at the turn of the century. I mean, it looks like it could make a mean espresso. You're probably wondering where these people were headquartered. Well, there's your old fire headquarters, which was built in 1892, again, same time frame. I guess the horses would go through the large arch and put their espresso machine away until the next call. Take a look at this beautiful looking structure. Still stands, actually. Let's take a look at it modern day. And again, to give you a sense of how well built this thing is. 1892, they tell us they put this together. Smooth circular brick columns built into the structure itself. Well, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 faceted arch over the circular window. Absolutely off the charts, gorgeous structure. And you can see it here shrouded in by these hideous brutalist boxes of the modern New World Borg society that replaced it. The Flatbush Theater, yet another theater. Just like to throw them in there if I find them, for the purpose of having them all in the same spot. The Frederick and Lesser Company, 1886. Apparently this was built. but take note of the way these things are put together, giving you all the indications that it's coming from the old world. You can see here decoration and ornamentation. Moving on to the Garfield building, 1881. This is built, demolished in 1925. Got rid of this one very early on. 1881. There's, well, 600,000 people living there, I guess. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 stories with the dome on the corner. The double dome. Even its neighbors look pretty juicy as far as the old world stuff goes. This is a great example of old world architecture. That so much was eliminated in those early decades of the 20th century. The Gaiety Theater, 1892, built again, same time frame, demolished, same time frame. The narrative repeats, as I so often say in my videos. We'll keep moving forward though. There's a lot to see in this one. I'll try to speed it along a little bit. The Germania House, 1890, demolished in the 1920s. Here's a better look at the Germania House, looking a lot like the headquarters for the fire department. This one really showing us that lower entryway from the street level. Very interesting. And again, the decoration here, the level of architecture, degree of difficulty, absolutely off the charts. I also find interesting is what's going on here across the street. I'm feeling like this place is being refurbished, dusted off. I believe there's the city hall without the dome. Once upon a time. The Greenwood Cemetery again. Nothing, no big deal, just what looks like an amazing looking miniature cathedral. There's this entry gate for the Greenwood Cemetery. Yeah. Well, what's going on here? So are we really going to believe that these people just had so much class and taste and resources, access to all these resources? I would suggest there's much more going on with the historical narrative than what we've been told. We've been diminished, reduced to believe a falsity about ourselves, our existence here, our greatness here, what we're capable of. All of these people will often ask me, why the lie? To me, it's obvious. You have to sell the deception if you're looking to control a people. The lie is critical. The lie has to stay in place. And that lie props you up as the top of the heap while keeping everyone else below you. Everyone else looking up to you and at you. And then that's where you want to keep them. You don't want people to start realizing that it's only ever been a lie and there's much more. And they've gotten, these people that have acquired this wealth and power in our society got there by ill-gotten gains. Here's a Hebrew Orphans Asylum. Not the only one, because we have another Hebrew Orphans Asylum. And yet another Hebrew Orphans Asylum, supposedly all in Brooklyn. You can try to make sense of that. Pretty easy to reprogram parentless children, though. Think about it. And the ones that listen the best are the ones that achieve a higher status in the new society. And that's how we got to where we are today. That's how I see it. The Home for Destitute Children. Hotel Bossert. 1909 they built this beauty. Absolute stunner, as you can see. And we do have a look at the interior. The Grand Foyer with its massive columns, 1909, and marvelously coffered ceiling. Still stands, and this is a shot of the high quality of materials that were used for this structure. Hotel Margaret burns down in a fire in 1980, built in 1889. It's a large structure for 1889. That one doesn't fit, had to go. interesting looking structure, and I do believe we're looking at some sort of closed-in situation at the top that wasn't always there. Hotel Mohawk. Don't have much information on this one. This is a postcard from 1909. So, make of that what you will. Interesting though with the card, it's pretty early. And we do have a look at some of the interior. Again, showing all the hallmarks. These old world hotels were really, really, really nice, for lack of a more descriptive term. As you can see, these are the things we try to copy. We try to imitate these things in the high-end hotels of the modern day. Some of these old world hotels remain very expensive to stay in them. Very, very expensive. Reserved for the higher class of society, the ones that learned to play along with the narrative and pass those things down to the next generation, as far as I'm concerned. Hotel Montague, 1885. This one gets built. They were so good with the stone, weren't they? Still stands, and that gives you another sense of very, very high quality of building materials that were used in the construction of the Hotel Montague. And moving on, we have the Institute of Arts and Sciences. A spectacular structure. Here it stands. Now, apparently this is a rendering of what it was supposed to look like, but it never actually reached this size, we're told. I wonder about that. I wonder if it was actually diminished. But here it is, and it's absolutely amazing looking structure. 1895 to 97, 2-year build time, although apparently they added on to it. You often get these. This is looking like not a very awkward looking structure, a very narrow rectangular shape. If I zoom into the edge here, it gets a little bit curious. I think we're looking at some sort of alteration of what it, because they like to put these in phases, these structures, and saying, okay, well then they added onto it. I'm highly skeptical of that. I think, again, this lends to the narrative they want us to believe. The James United Church burns down, 84. There's the pipe organ in the James United Church. The pipe organ's part of the old world. And then you have speculated these churches were actually used as healing centers, where the rosette windows and the organs themselves would create frequency that had the ability to keep you well, even make you feel better. There's probably something to that, although here's the James United Methodist Church in our modern day, looking like maybe some of the bottom portion remained, and they didn't know what to do, so they put a gable-style roof on the top. The Jenkins Trust Company, 0405, couldn't find much else on that. Another home for children, McCallman Home for Children. Of course, you gotta need a place for these children without parents. Kings County Penitentiary, 1846, 50,000 people living there. Demolished in 07. Foreground also looks interesting here. Makes me think of the rubble. There are video from the Bronx looking like it's just brick rubble everywhere. I think from the 70s, 1970s. Looking like a war zone. I wonder about the destruction process down through time. I often wonder what once stood that we have no evidence of. All I have here is what I could find. I'm certainly not implying that's all there was. Kings County Wheelman's Clubhouse, 1887-88. Again, showing us spectacular looking architecture. What's amazing is how well this stuff ages, really. The Lawyer's Title Insurance and Trust Company. Looking like something taller once stood adjacent to it. I wonder about the building next to it, and if it was once tall as well. I wonder if it was roof was flattened off and this whole portion added. All speculation, of course. Interior of the Lee Avenue Theater. Just another theater in Brooklyn. Keep moving forward. Again, take note of the build times as we move forward. Nice looking row of beach estates here. Coney Island beach estates with the elevated railway running along right outside these structures. Manufacturers National Bank had a dome on the corner. The temple for the Gentlemen's Club, which I'm sort of wary of saying here on YouTube. And there it is in the modern day, looking quite run down. Oh, no, this is a different one. We have two temples. You can see this one in the modern day, looking like it's on the way out. Has been taken over. And there's the another one, I believe, looking like a third. Wow. And this one you can see. There we go. Or if you weren't sure what I was talking about, there's your answer. Beautiful looking structure. There it is behind us, with a church we will look at as we move forward as well. Mechanics Bank, 1896, demolished in 59. I am sure the lobby of that was absolutely spectacular. And where there's what we're told was an addition to the back of it, curved, no less. We'll keep moving forward. The Methodist Episcopal Hospital, 1887. This thing gets demolished in the 30s. That's interesting as well. When I try to pin down the narrative, I don't get a clear answer. You'd think there would be some sort of official record surrounding when this actually took place, the demolition of the structure. And again, showing us magnificent structure on one side of the street and rubble and debris on the other side of the street. The Monoton Company, 1895, been demolished. The Montauk Club, 89 to 91, again, same time frame as so many other structures we're seeing. Try to envision what Brooklyn was supposed to have looked like in 1892, for instance. What should you be seeing? And you think someone might have had the presence of mind to capture a cityscape under complete construction, but that's never the case. And which lends to our speculation that these timelines are way off. This one still stands, the Montauk Club. Looking, again, very well preserved, highly decorative, and often very secretive, these structures as well. There's the water tower I mentioned earlier, Mount Prospect Water Tower. This one's built in 1893 as well. I'm sure they just grabbed a couple guys from the Armory to come over on the weekends and build a water tower. They got rid of this one in less than 40 years. So you think in some cases the people that built this were still alive when they demolished it. Imagine the outrage. All of the blood, sweat, and tears that was said to have gone into the construction of this, only to tear it down less than 40 years later. And I believe that's the municipal building I mentioned earlier, adjacent to the courthouse. In the background, we can't really see the dome. The Naval YMCA. All the hallmarks of what we've seen so far. The Navy Yard entrance, looking like a castle. Yeah, again, you can see the brick pavers on the streets in the foreground. I like the cityscapes that we get from these black and whites. And another curious aspect of the old world research is the awnings that were placed on so many of the windows, lending to the suspicions that the people that took to these structures, that dwelled in these, had a revulsion to the sunlight. They were not used to the sunlight. A very strange way to do that, but it's very common, especially around the turn of the century. We'll keep moving forward. Getting through the file, like I said, a large file, long video. I hope you don't mind. The People's Bank, built in the 1890s, question mark, not sure. Why not throw it in the 1890s? Everything else was being built then too. Again, the very heavily worn streets. Phoenix building, 85, 86. That might be what we looked at earlier as a part of a complex next to the Eagle building. Another armory, not sure what this one is called. And again, the wasteland surrounding it. The post office, which I believe showed up in my post office video recently as well. I guess it's a two-phase build. Not sure. Maybe that's the timeline. Why on earth are you making post offices look like castles? I've asked these questions before. Even the building in the foreground has my jaw on the floor. Love, love, love the old world architecture. Here's a nice look at the street scenes. This is supposed to be 1906. How old is all the brickwork here? Are we really to assume that these horse and wagons have been traveling these streets, these brick-paved streets, for no more than 40 years at the time? These look very heavily worn, looking like very old infrastructure. The only reason our minds tend to dismiss that is because of the training that we've received about our past. We need to unlearn the lies of the past and open up to the possibility that the timeline we've been given is an absolute falsity. Post office, give me a break. So many structures. This one still stands too. The Pratt Institute, 1880s. They built this, looking like it's in very, very good condition. What do we have depicted here? Possibly dragons, griffins, not sure. And a sneak peek at the interior, just to give you an idea of the quality of materials on the inside. In the modern day, we would have some sort of wood or some sort of composite material to trim out this edge here. Back in 1886, we were using marble. Not sure how we were milling it. Are we supposed to believe that was hammer and chisel that milled all that in 1886? Yeah, the bottom has already fallen out as far as I'm concerned. This is right at the entrance of Prospect Park. We'll look at a few structures now in Prospect Park. Often when they give a park designation in these places, it's because something massive was demolished. You get that a lot with the World's Fairs that become parks down through time. And you have some very interesting structures surviving in Prospect Park. Looking like bare shells of structures, though. Shells or shelters. And why on earth you would herringbone the ceiling of a structure in a park like this? It's because you could, I suppose. Stone bridges. 1880s, it looks like we have here. Not sure, though. Let's just a look at some of the brownstone type buildings that surround Prospect Park in Brooklyn. And the stone bridges. A lot more going on here than what we're being told. No way this is possible for all of this to have just popped up in a 20 to 30 year period, sorry. But I'm going to keep moving through my file. And we have a public school. Another public school. Yet another public school. And on the story goes. Multi-storied, well-built structures, all for the purpose of educating the youth. And there's a nice look again at the wear on these roads. Why on earth would you build a road like this? This lends to my theory that we're looking at some sort of damage, electrical damage, changing of the composition of the materials themselves. I think when this was originally built as part of the old world system, we're looking at a flat, very flat brick paved street. No longer the case. Here's the church we saw earlier next to the Gentlemen's Club here on the left. The Queen of All Saints Catholic Church, 3-year build time to build what looks like a cathedral. Very heavily ornamented. I do believe the tower portion has been removed in the modern day. At least it was in the photograph. Not sure what this is supposed to be, unless we're going to theorize on the etheric energy theory of the old world. We'll continue moving forward, though. The real estate exchange building and the public library here on the right, with an interesting decoration at the top here. This one built in 1890-91, again, same time period, demolished 1960. Urban renewal. Yes, you've got to renew the urban environment with plain, boring boxes. You can't keep this stuff around. Got to fill that in, level off the streets. Now a lot of these places they do have hatches in the streets where you can come out, which I find interesting. The Riccadonna. I saw this one earlier. There it is again. Unfortunately, I don't have a timeline on that one. Apologies. Sailors and Soldiers Arch. An homage to the defenders of the Union during the American Civil War, which I think was a reset, a hard reset of America and the Americas as Canada gets its Confederation in 1867. You have a carving up and a compartmentalizing of the continent. Savings Bank, same timeline as so many others. We are approaching the end of the file. And I should mention as well, if you see a photograph or something that really strikes you and you would like it, you can always contact me and I'd be happy to send you what I have. I'm sure you could do a search as well and find these. These are relatively easy to find in a search. Sometimes I'll come across a website. The St. Anne's Church was demolished. Oh no, that's not true. It has not been demolished. It still stands. Not sure why I have that marked down as demolished. There it is in the modern day. Not a great photograph. St. Francis Xavier Church, 1886. Busy, busy bees. 88. John the Baptist. There's a nice look at it. And we have a look at the interior of John the Baptist Church as well. Not a square inch of the ceiling overlooked. We've got a painting up above. Old world screaming in your face. The history is a lie. What they told us is a lie. St. Mary's Hospital stood for 100 years, as you can see here. Moving forward, more examples of the wear in the streets, and the rail tracks as a part of the infrastructure. Everything's stone, brick, very, very high quality building materials. The Swedish Evangelical Church. The telephone building. You know it's the telephone building because it has a sign way down here. And a door below the street level. The telephone building. The Temple Bar building. This one's a stunner. 2-year build time on this, apparently. How many stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 with the mansard-like domes on the 4 corners. 2 years? Come on. The turn of the century. This is just a look at the interior. Marble, iron, gold leaf. Yes, I know, it was just the Gilded Age. That's why they built that way. Because of the robber barons. And here they're trying to show us it was two-phase again. I don't know. There's just so much. Brooklyn giving us a lot of old world juice. Here's the Eagle Warehouse and Storage Company. Not looking like much, but it does still stand. And here's just a taste of the brickwork on this very plain looking, at first glance, warehouse. How many bricks were used to construct this thing? Yeah. Let me get to some of my favorites in the file. The Oriental Hotel. Only really standing for 36 years. He built in 1880, 1916. Take a look at that. Absolute stunner. Gorgeous looking structure. There's another look at it from the reverse angle. You also see, I'm not sure what this is, if this is a fence, what exactly is going on here down below. Looks to be a part of the building, actually. You can see it up here as well. But I would wager that's not part of the original structure. There's the Riccadonna. Found it. 1904 to 1927. 23 years this thing stood. Okay. The Albemarle. They threw this one up in 1920. The Folly Theatre. 01 to 49. Threw a dome on the corner for good measure. Another little tower on the corner of the Gaiety Theatre, 1892 to 1940. They had to get rid of all these. You can see the pattern emerging here. They give us a false start date that can't be verified. And they just get rid of so many of these structures. Mid-century. Another one, the Hyde and Bayman's Theatre. Here, highly ornate. I'm sure the interiors of these were absolutely spectacular. This is the Lowe's Melba Theatre. Very short windows of time. One of my favorites here in Brooklyn, the Thomas Jefferson Building, built in 2 years, probably less, even the timelines. I don't know why they're so sloppy with the short build durations. Doesn't help their narrative whatsoever. Demolished in 1960. Take a look at this thing. Thomas Jefferson Building. There's your lower doors below street level. 2 massive archways. Yeah, some serious eye candy going on here. Apparently this one was demolished, but not sure when. Touraine Hotel, demolished, 60. Busy time. You're seeing a lot of demolition going on right in and around 1960. This one was built apparently at the same time those armories were built, and so many other structures that we've seen in this video. That's a lot of construction workers. Yeah, I know the population was relatively large according to the historical narrative. Still, that's a lot of construction going on. That's not even counting residences going up. I'm sure that they'll date to that period as well. Teachers had to be trained what to teach. This is where they would do it. Once upon a time, it looked like it had a mansard-style roof. Looking like it was cut off at this point, somewhere along the line. As you can see here, cut off. The Trinity Church, 1844, very early on in the time period, 50,000 people living there. Here's the interior of the Trinity Church that was said to have been built in the 1840s, with its absolutely amazing stained glass window ceiling. That is old world. Screams. That's where you go to France to see something like this. But no, in Brooklyn. There's your triumphal arch. Also being placed into the same timeline, William Tecumseh Sherman, who I have mentioned here on this channel, who basically wreaked havoc during the American Civil War, burning his way from Atlanta, Georgia to the coast, burning everything in his sight. Not a good man by any measure, but highly celebrated as a Union general. General Sherman. Sherman's March, I believe they call that. Worth a deep dive on its own. Another armory, Troop C Bedford, 03 to 07. There it is from the other side. A dirigible air travel hangar, you tell me. And moving on to the end of the file. This is again is another unidentified church. It might be the same stone one we saw earlier, but I'm not sure. And even the buildings in the background here. Take a look at the shapes. The lower fenced off courtyard, I guess. The Union League Club, 1889 they built this. Now a senior center. So we have homeless shelters and senior centers. It is nice that some of these still stand, though. There's a look at it in the modern day. Going to visit someone in the senior center. Make sure you tilt your head back and look at that. Union United Methodist Church, same timeline. Still stands. Yet another school. Williamsburg Trust Company with its massive dome, 05 to 06. Old world, old world, old world. Yeah, there's something wrong with the narrative. Thanks for watching.